everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about my Catalyst build. I had asked what others would like to see for my builds that I'm currently running in Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons, and the next one to be suggested was the Catalyst. So I thought I would head on over to my Elementalist and showcase what I'm currently running. Now, Catalyst did just recently receive plenty of buffs and a little bit of love in various departments, so that's very exciting. But of course, balance is a continuous topic with Guild Wars 2, and in the future, this build may or may not be outdated. But I definitely want to showcase some of my thoughts about Catalyst and also highlight some gameplay as Catalyst currently stands in March of 2022. So let's head on over to talk about the gear, then we'll move on to the specializations and talk about gameplay. I really have gone full Celestial on my armor, at least. I'm also doubling down with Superior Rune of Divinity. I gain a bunch of extra stats to all my stats, and then on top of this, for the 6th tier, I gain plus 10% maximum health. And as an Elementalist, you are not only really weak in your armor, but your health pool is one of the lowest in game. And with all of this, on top of the Celestial and the Superior Rune of Divinity, I'm now sitting around 18,000 health, which is pretty reasonable for an Elementalist. Other than that, I'm taking Hammer, and for my Hammer, I'm running Superior Sigil of Chilling and Earth. I could also swap this to Superior Sigil of Concentration to give myself a little bit more boon up time in group settings. As far as my accessories and back items, I'm running Diviners to just pump in a little bit extra concentration. Next, let's talk about the build. I'm running Fire, Earth, and Catalyst. For Fire, I'm taking Burning Precision, Burning Rage, and Pyromancer's Puissance. It sounds French, and I don't know really how to speak French. For Earth, I have decided to take Serrated Stones, Strength of Stone, and also Stone Heart, meaning I have a lot of extra condition damage in terms of bleeding, but also for Stone Heart, you cannot be critically hit while attuned to Earth. I still think that a lot of the Earth Grandmasters feel slightly lackluster, but, you know, that's just my opinion. And then finally, we have Catalyst to discuss. For Catalyst, my favorite thing is probably the traits. The weapon is definitely improved, and so have the utility skills, and I'm kind of warmed up to Catalyst, especially when I compare it to the very first time testing it out. But something that has really remained true is my love of these traits. They are very simple, they have a good idea of what they're trying to do, and they're not trying to present a whole 5-paragraph summary of what one trait does. I'm looking at you, Spectre. But let's talk about Catalyst. For this build, I've decided to run a lot with these traits. Vicious Empowerment. Gain Elemental Empowerment and Might when you disable or immobilize a foe. With this build, you're going to be focusing a lot on Elemental Empowerment, which is the buff here. You gain plus 3% to all stats, and you can stack that up to 10. So you can get a total of plus 30 stats for everything that you have. And especially because I'm running Celestial, that's plus 30 to every single stat that I currently have. So the more that you have this auto maximum stack, usually the better. I am switching it up a little bit. You might say, KROOF, just take Evasive Empowerment to gain even more out of that buff. But I do like playing with Empowering Auras. I gain increased outgoing damage when I gain an aura, which can stack up to 5 times to ultimately grant myself plus 10% damage and condition damage. In solo situations and also in group content, just to pull a little bit extra DPS. So I've really enjoyed going with that. And then finally, I've taken Sphere Specialist for group content, specifically, but if I am just by myself, I usually take Empowered Empowerment, because this is plus 100% to that buff, which I believe gets me up to plus 60% to all stats. So that's nothing to scoff at, and especially with this build, you can get a lot of health, you can get a lot of extra damage, condition damage, expertise, concentration. It still is pretty nice. However, I was just recently doing some group content, so I was taking Sphere Specialist, and even as a DPS class, Sphere Specialist is pretty useful. What I would say about Catalyst is I wish that there was more ways to gain energy throughout the traits. I still believe that staunch auras, even for open world PvE, should grant you some energy for your F5 when you apply an aura to yourself. Maybe like 2 energy, 1 energy if there isn't a cooldown, or if they want to have a slight cooldown on this, be like, it's on a cooldown of 3 seconds, you gain 3 or 5 energy, something along those lines. I like staunch auras. Talk a little bit about it, especially with the hammer changes. There's a lot to talk about for how the Catalyst plays now. Back in the day before the change, back in the day, it was literally a couple days ago, but I used to really have a completely different mindset of how I played Catalyst few days ago. Now I really have to change my mindset to really activate my third ability on the hammer when I'm preparing to leave the attunement I'm currently in. It now lasts for 15 seconds, which means you can get a lot more out of it by not necessarily popping it immediately. I have found I really had to kick the habit of immediately proccing my third ability. So let's pop down my sphere and start comboing in it to gain a little bit of that extra aura stuff. We're now gonna go into Earth because I'm about to get hit, in which I can gain some barrier. We're gonna F5 to get some extra protection. I'm actually gonna swap into Water to do another combo field. So I'm now at 3 stacks of elemental, or 3 stacks of auras. The aura buff, which I believe is empowering auras. 7 stacks of elemental empowerment. I think I was getting around 20,000 health, which as an elementalist is not too shabby. Also, as for my utilities, I'm currently taking Soothing Water for the Condi clear. I'm taking Fortified Earth as a emergency button, and Relentless Fire for extra damage. Signet of Earth also improves my toughness to sustain myself, but Bleeding and Immobilize is also pretty good. And I'm currently taking Elemental Celerity because I'm really trying to find something to love about it, but I'm struggling. Ooh, not me getting knocked down. We're gonna use the 8th skill because when you use your augment abilities in the sphere that you're in, they gain extra buffs. I'm gonna use that to gain some extra barrier. I'm gonna pop this. I also gained Frost Aura. I'm gonna combo into this again. I'm gonna combo in air, and we've gotten quite a few stacks of empowered auras, and I believe we're currently at maximum stacks of elemental empowerment, which sits us at pretty much like 21,000 health. But as for Catalyst, just to talk a little bit about it, I really have not landed a rotation, and I feel like with Hammer, it might still be a bit difficult to nail down that rotation because there's so many things going on at any given time. But in group content, I tend to prioritize F1 and F3, this being your air attunement and also air attunement on F3, and then your fire attunement on F1. This is because your deploy Jade Sphere in group content, usually people gravitate towards quickness and also might. So if you can stack a lot of this up and keep it rolling throughout the fight, it will go a long way. However, that's not to say that F4, your Earth deployed Jade Sphere, is weak by any means. Protection is a really strong boon. It reduces incoming damage by 33%, which is quite a lot. We'll pop into here. I'm going to use my 7th skill, and while using my 7th skill in here, that actually will reduce the cooldown of my rock barrier. What is this called? Fortified Earth. It reduces the cooldown of Fortified Earth so that I can do more with it. As for the water sphere, it's really nice to blast in with the hammer if you need extra healing on yourself or you want to splash extra heals on allies. Also, because these orbs now last for 15 seconds, they are very, very useful. They're about to run out, so I'm going to actually refresh it a little bit. And that means every single orb that I have up has been refreshed to 15 seconds. But that, for water, for your F2, your F5, in a PvP area, your F5 deploy Jade Sphere water is not bad. However, in a PvE environment where there usually are not many instances of you coming into mega threat levels of condition damage, It's not necessarily as valued, but if they decide to pick it up in the condition department for boss encounters or just mobs that you fight, maybe it will become slightly more valuable. And there's been one or two instances where I have felt the call to swap into water to get some of that resolution, and also to pop my third ability. All of your third abilities on Hammer, they now last 15 seconds. They also have a cooldown, a varying cooldown actually, between like 18 seconds and 14 seconds, depending on which attunements you are taking for your spec lines. Because they last 15 seconds, you really can permanently upkeep these buffs that the third skills apply. So for Icy Coil, it's reducing my incoming condition damage by 15%. If I swap to F3, I can use this, which grants me plus 10% critical chance. We can camp in air for a little bit longer, and then usually when these buffs start to blink, that means they're starting to diminish, you can swap into the next one, press the next third ability to refresh all of it. For Earth, it reduces my damage by an additional 15%. And then if we even want to spend a little bit more time, we can just get some more damage out, do some more hits, and then go into F1, activate that again, and we have amazing amounts of uptimes on both, on really everything. Icy Coil, Crescent Wind, Rocky Loop, and Flame Wheel. So it's pretty nice. In a PvE environment, I almost want them to go to 20 seconds. if I can just admit that, because it is nice and it's definitely improvement from its first incarnation. And as you can see there, I already used my Earth 3. So that means I won't necessarily have as much time to camp into Earth before I have to go to the next one. So now I'm going to come into this and then use the air. Oh, I should have kind of... It's almost like the very first thing that you do. If you happen to swap into an attunement and immediately use your third orb, that means the next attunement that you swap into, you for the most part will have to immediately use the orb for that attunement, because you have to refresh the other ones. It is a little bit complex when you start to think about the minutia of it all. We're gonna block that, get another flame aura. Area might. We're gonna go into air. I'm gonna get some additional quickness on myself. And then Grand Finale has also been buffed to do more damage, which is pretty nice. We're gonna come over here and get some extra healing. Also, your fourth ability is a really good healing ability. It does about 5,000 healing on this current build, which is kind of the equivalent of this actual heal for Soothing Water. So Hammer Water 4, not bad. For Hammer, I was talking to my friend Smudgeon the other day, and we were really saying that Cleansing Typhoon should be a knockdown. There is something missing on water for me that I think still needs some love. A slight heal on Water Rush, like a heal that for each target that you strike, you do like 30 healing, 40 healing per target. Something pretty minor, but if you're in a very densely packed area with many enemies, you gain more use out of it. Other than that, everyone, this is really the Catalyst build. I'm liking Catalyst. I've definitely warmed up to Catalyst. I think the Elite skill is still pretty bad. I think it is in need of a overhaul. I would like to see this maybe grant an aura once again, or, you know, something to really fill that niche of maybe a DPS or like a boon extension type situation. Who knows? But I think Elemental Celerity is probably one of the weakest elites to be designed. I mean, at least a Rebound in its original incarnation reduced the abilities of your allies as well. Maybe that would be interesting if Elemental Celerity in a 600 radius reduced the recharge of your allies' utility skills by like 20% or something. I don't know. Something along those lines. But everybody, that was my Catalyst build. Thank you all so much for coming on by. Comment down below what you think about the Catalyst. Have you been enjoying it? Do you still find it a little weird? I'm kind of in the middle with it now. But other than that, please comment down below what other elite specs you want me to try. PvP might be around the corner after I do a bunch of the PvE stuff, but I would love to hear your recommendations for elite specs. If you would like to support the channel, head on over to the Patreon. You get early access to videos and some exclusive videos. If you would like to order Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons, the 3rd expansion from ArenaNet, you can use my links down below. And if you're interested in some VPN services, I have that down below as well. Thank you all so much for coming on by, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody!